Let me start with something that surprises a lot of people. Most deaf babies are born to hearing parents who don't know sign language. So imagine this, a baby who can't hear being raised by people who also don't sign. So how does that baby ever learn a language? That's where this gets really interesting. Here's the big thing to understand. Deaf people don't learn sign language in some special or mysterious way. They learn it the same way hearing people learn spoken language, through exposure, repetition, and interaction. If a deaf child grows up around fluent signers, they pick it up naturally. No instruction manuals, no formal lessons at first, just language in the air, except it's visual instead of audible. For deaf children born to deaf parents, sign language is their first language. They start babbling with their hands. They copy facial expressions. They make mistakes. They invent signs before learning the real ones. It's the same process as a hearing toddler learning to speak, just through movement instead of sound. But most deaf children aren't born into signing households. So a lot of deaf kids learn sign language later, through early intervention programs, deaf schools, interpreters, or other deaf people. When that happens early enough, the brain adapts fast. Children's brains are incredibly flexible. If sign language is introduced early, it becomes just as natural and fluent as spoken language is for hearing kids. That's why early access matters so much. Now, some people assume sign language is just spoken language on the hands. It's not. Sign languages have their own grammar, sentence structure, and rules. You don't translate word for word. You think visually and spatially. That's why deaf children don't just memorize signs. They learn how the language works, just like anyone else learning a first language. What about deaf people who learn sign language later in life? They absolutely can learn it, but it's more like learning a second language as an adult. It takes effort, it takes immersion, and fluency depends a lot on how much access they had to language earlier in life. That's also why meeting other deaf people is such a huge part of learning sign language. Language isn't learned in isolation, it's learned socially. So how do deaf people learn sign language? Give the brain a full language early, and it grows with it. Take that away, and everything becomes harder than it needs to be. Sign language isn't a backup plan. For millions of deaf people, it's home.